Yeah, so I'm going to hold a speech about an actual case study, but from a blockchain case study that is not in the metaverse, it's in real estate. I'm trying to transform that idea into the metaverse later, because we're on a metaverse conference right now. But I chose this case study because it's real estate, so it couldn't be far away from the actual metaverse. But it's interesting because there are not so many case studies that actually work in the real fields, and I'll tell you later why. But there's like just not enough room there to show real case studies that have an economical impact on the metaverse, except of course of gamifications, games and so on work. But for the normal economy, for the normal companies, it's rare that you find actual case studies for the metaverse. My name, by the way, is Arne. I'm co-founder and representative of a group of companies, a native app production digital agency called Rio Nord, a learning app platform that's called Repeat Mobile, and an educational layer. We train blockchain-related third-generation blockchains and do also consulting, and that's about me. I'm also in partnership with two other companies from China, Shanghai. There's a huge consultancy. It's called IoT One Limited, IoT One Group, and then there's also a platform for SMEs, small and mid-cap enterprises in China, mostly from Germany, who start their business in production in China with this company that is called Smart Factory Kunshan. I'm hosting a monthly round table communication circle that's called DLT Circle. It's a kind of hosted by the IoT Plus network here from Berlin. And I'm doing that every Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. We also had the honor that Sebastian Becker, for example, who's in the audience right now, exactly here, has been a regular participant of these talks, and I cordially invite you to come over. We discuss DLT concepts that have an impact into the economy. So we are not searching for any kind of ideas that would work anywhere. We think about how could blockchain deliver an actual benefit for companies. And we discuss that, and hopefully one of the participants then will find an idea and found the next unicorn company from these talkings that we have. But I, as I said, cordially invite you to come over. You find us on Eventbrite, or just post me a message. So we are talking about the case study that's from a company that is called PropOps. This is a South German company, but have offices kind of in some parts of the world, in Dubai, in Shanghai or Bangkok, and I believe also in Bangkok, if I'm not mistaken. And we're talking about real estate operations here. So. Interesting fact. So if you own a building and if you want to run and maintain the building in operations, you have to spend about 5% of this building, the actual worth. So let's say you have a building that's costing 100 millions. So you have to invest 5% of these 100 millions into annual running costs to maintain that and to keep it, keep the value, etc. That's an interesting information, and these assets are those ones that PropOp is actually servicing and doing or invented a solution for that. And these are examples of the single buildings that they have under their service. So what are the problems that the blockchain-related service could potentially solve? Which are the pain points of what the industry, what the real estate industry has? So first of all, you have a slow asset growth because you're doing manually everything in your building. So you're running, you gain informations and so on, and you're not scaled up. So it's pretty much analog what you're doing. So the information is slow, and your growth that you would have is also slow. You find yourself kind of locked in as from your vendors with your service providers because they have all the information, they have all the data, and you find yourself in a situation where you can't even set up some bonus-malus agreements because you literally don't know if the service providers has actually, for example, done the green fields mowing of the lawns, or has he done actually the cleaning, or has he done maintaining of the garage or something. You just don't know, and you find yourself in a kind of a vendor lock-in. The next one is also the lack of trust and compliance. So as a great example, if you hire a guy, a craftsman, to come into your flat and to repair, for example, renew the bathroom, you don't know if this guy has brought new pipes. Or is he just like repairing the stuff that's there and sold you new pipes, but hasn't done it actually because you find yourself later and then the tiles are done, you don't see it anymore. So think of that in the real estate business as well. So you don't actually really know what's going on, and that's the core problem of the real estate operation and maintenance industry, because you simply don't know. There are so many vendors, so many suppliers, there's no trust, there's institutional distrust. And then you have risks. There's a fun fact. If you're walking over the campus of this university here, and after a storm, you would be hit by a branch falling down from a tree. Who would be responsible for that? A fun fact, actually, the Lord Mayor of Berlin, her name is Franziska Giffey, she would be, in case, responsible for that because it's an open public space. And if then something like that happens, she would be, in the end, responsible for that. So just as a fun fact, you can't, this responsibility, you cannot provide that to any other one, for example, the facilitation manager or so on. You have to own that kind of responsibility as an owner yourself. But we'll find a solution for that, and I'm coming back on that. So talking about this service that is provided, also a very interesting fact that you might not know is that you earn money, or it is earned. Money is earned in this industry by providers who actually say and write down in the contract, they make an offer, yeah, we do this and that, but they don't do it actually. So because of this institutional lack of trust and responsibility, that's actually possible in this area. It is a fact that service providers earn money because they calculate their offer knowing that they don't perform the services. So at least a part of those services. So they say, okay, yeah, we do the winter service. Yeah, we do the mowing of the lawn. We clean the garage. Or we take care of the aircon. We do the winter. We do the heating inspection. All this kind of stuff. But it is not performed, or let's say not to 100%. And that is how, in this industry, money is made. Next one, please. So the solution on this. For this problem would be, and that is what ProPubs did, and I'll come and explain that further. The solution is that, first of all, you automatically aggregate the data. You know, all the data that is provided, for example, the service on inspecting all the trees on the ground that I just told you about. And you write it down in checkbooks, Checkheft auf Deutsch. You know, you have this in the car industry where you provide your, of course Marcus knows about that, you provide your car, you give your car to a service provider, they do the inspection, and then you know that there's fresh oil put into the car, and etc., etc. Your car is in very good condition. And think of that in the same way for the real estate industry. Yeah, so you provide checkers where you literally write down all the performed services, and then you have all the data that you can then also compare, you can analyze it and so on. But before, in most of the times before, it's analog, so maybe the data has been written on a paper, but the paper has been forgotten in a car. And there's the information, so yeah, right. And that is something that is not happening anymore. So this is the basic, let's say, the core provision of this system from prop-ups. And you have 4 different areas. The first of all, you've got the prop-up system. It's a cloud-based subcontractor management, a kind of a cockpit where you can then see all the information, where you can gather it, where you can collect it, where you can analyze it, and so on. Then you have a strategic database. Actually, you do have a database which you haven't had before, and it provides homogenized information in this database. You have an order system where you can automatically monitor and also manage your facility management orders. Yeah, you can see who is doing what. You can provide and perform audits and all this kind of stuff. And then you have the checkbooks, and that is where blockchain comes in, where you have hashed information. And we'll give you more insight in a later field, where you have the hashed information about what has been done and what has not been done. So, and this is the most important chart of my presentation here, because we're thinking about actually 3, but more of that 4 different stakeholders here in this field of operation and maintaining buildings. And since we're talking about big companies, yeah, for example, there's Stex, Apleano, there's Visag and all this kind of that, like hundreds of service providers who do the services of the real estate maintenance and operations. And all these guys have legacy data sources. These guys are storing, if even, all the information, for example, in a shadow IT, in Excel, or on paper. Or if you go further, like this is the evolution of what has been happening in the last 30 years, you have computer-aided facility management. So where you have then kind of some Microsoft systems and some other providers who are able to give you information about the performed services and all this kind of stuff. And then you also have, of course, ERP systems like SAP or so, but these ones are kind of 10, 20, 30 years old. So, and this is information that does not really help you, for example, with proven services and proof of what has been done and what has not been performed. And you have starting with the guys who perform the services, you have different managers on this area. You have the facility managers. These are the ones that perform the actual services. And then you have asset managers. Those are the guys who actually contract those facility managers. And then you have portfolio managers who own the building. And then over that, the 4th group of guys is you have farm managers who invest, for example, in those kind of real estate properties. And the facility managers, so we're talking about a business that is like 100 years old or something like that. Yeah. So at least in the last 30 or 40 years, there's been an industry level that that has been performed, for example, by these facilitate managers, who then, because of its widely renowned everywhere. You have a lot of service providers, you have a lot of buildings, you have a lot of practices that they learned. So there are a ton of facility managers. And these guys have only a profit, because there are so many people and there's so much offer, only a profit of about 1 to 5%-ish, maybe 7 up to, of the whole revenue. So of the cost that they produce, they are only allowed, let's say 3% as a profit. So this is not a very profitable business, right? And the asset managers the same. They have like in between 1 to 3% of the whole revenue that is performed is their own profit. So, and then you have the portfolio guys that only earn like a 1% or something like that. So, and these three guys, you know, they don't earn much money. So, but then they have an interest of that the costs stay high, right? Because that's their revenue that they then get 1 to 3% of as profit. So and that's so interesting, because these three guys don't have any incentive to change the system, for example, to reduce the cost. They don't. But the portfolio managers, the guys who run the actual real estate ownership, they have like 2, 10, 20 billions of asset in there, because they run this. I don't know, the banks in Germany, they do that kind of real estate investment. These guys are typically guys who have. They have all the data, they're like super hungry for data, and so on. Then they go to these other guys and say, hey, the portfolio manager, goes to the asset manager, for example, and he says, hey, give me all the data. The asset manager goes to the facility manager and says, hey, I need those data, but the data is not there. Think of it, the data is in the car, on a paper, somewhere, and he forgot about it. So he said, I don't have the data. So, and we're talking about this kind of environment of business, right? And then the portfolio manager says, okay, it's not a problem, but because you don't provide me those kind of data, I will deduct 5% of the whole value of the building because of risk, properly risk that's coming, right? There might be risk. So I deduct 5% of the whole building cost and so on if I sell it and those kind of things, because there's no information available. And then this is the way where PropOps comes and brings in information. So basically, a BIM database, Business Information Management System, you heard of that. They provide information because they made all the information accessible, and they provide a system where everybody has to provide that kind of information, put it in the system, and that system will get later on hashed in this information. You have all this information, and it is growing. And then you have what we will see in the next chart, a real estate ledger, because you have a ledger book which is based on hash figures, connected to a blockchain, and you have all the information that is needed. So they provide a whole system where the information can be found and traced. And they also invented a little bit of a bot machine, which are, this sounds so fancy, but think of a cron job. Think of automatically sourced data from different databases. So, for example, think of the winter service. They provide information for those guys who have to perform, carry away the snow in the winter, or put some salt on the street so people don't slip. And they can then, for example, say, okay, Mr. XY, you need to go out today at this hour of time. Have you done it or have you not done it? Have you provided a photo where you provided the amount of, also, for example, the salt is measured, where we can see how much salt has been put on the street on that winter morning? And then you would have all the information, right? And then you can see and think about all the information that you then need. And if you now think about the metaverse, how would the metaverse come into? How would a metaverse potentially provide value then I would think about then, okay, if I go into the metaverse and I don't have to go there, I'm sitting, for example, in Frankfurt as a real estate portfolio manager, but I can go into Berlin, without the deduction of time and room. I can literally go to Berlin and look into the actual state of that, let's say, 100 million real estate property, and I could look and see the red flags on the building. I can see the red flag on the tree branch, because there might be some providers of information that say, oh, we have tracked this tree, and we have found that there was a storm, and there might be a danger of a tree falling down from that. So that would be the connection to the metaverse on this area, and that would be the thing that I'm talking about. Okay, one more. So these are a little bit of the case study inside of the asset manager, property manager, and the facilitate managers. And I think we're running out of time otherwise. And this is where the blockchain comes into. So the data aggregation from documents, the status, and the core data is hashed over a fingerprinting method. So you can then say, okay, we collect the actual documents, and we actually collect the hashing information. When has this information been provided into the database? And this is the fingerprint that is then traced, and that's then taken into the blockchain. And it's on that, we can talk about the technology of the blockchain. It's IoT, the system that they use. So they can have the tamper-proof identity of that information on that particular time. Are we finishing?
No, it's fine. Take your time.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. So this is, for example, this is one of the insights of, this is the kind of information that you see when you open the system. You can then see, okay, the Fassadenaufzug, the elevator of the outside of the building has been, let's say, checked for the information. You can see that, and you can see in the actual building that there has been on the left upper side, you see Checkhefte. So this is not an English menu here, but these are the areas where you can find then of your building all the checkbooks that and all the information that you have gathered. And then again, you can analyze all this data. That's the next information that you would properly use when you want to use it in the metaverse, because you can go into and then analyze and then say, okay, show me all information of all the buildings that we own in Berlin. You again travel to Berlin while you are in Frankfurt, and then you see the different areas, and then you can say, okay, maybe like minority report style, you can then gather the information and say, okay, show me now in Berlin where are the next big problems, or show me the cost. Can we spare it? We have a new offer for 15 buildings. This guy is coming up, and how would he perform it? And then you might also be able to see that in the information. That's another part where you can see, okay, this is a detailed information about the actual fingerprint in the system. And the next one is, I would like to close on my presentation with this. We are searching for, as a DOT circle, we are searching for actual case studies where you can say, okay, is this system providing an actual benefit? And if you then say, okay, it provides an actual benefit, and can you then answer the question, can you do it without blockchain? And props, this system you can't do without a blockchain actually, because you have so many you have so many vendors and suppliers and people in this ecosystem, and no one trusts no one, because there's so much room for fraud. Yeah, but you can then force people into compliance over the blockchain, and that's the interesting question or answer to that question is: do you really need a blockchain or not? And on that case, you can say yes, you need a blockchain, and that is why you don't need to trust anyone. and you can trust no one. It doesn't make any sense, you know. Like it's like you can trust anyone or no one, and that's the reason I would like to close my speech then. Thanks for your attention.
Arne, thank you for that great presentation. Yeah, my students had to laugh because I'm always saying don't trust nobody, not even the professor. So that's no, fine. Are there any questions so far? Then I would like to raise my question. The maintenance topic is of course a big, let's say, topic, if not a challenge for many industries, of course. Do you have also experience, contacts, ideas for other industries? Let's take the aviation industry.
I would say yes. So the thing is, blockchain, the technology, will not go away anymore. You know, this is out of the bottle, as you can say. But where would it make sense, and where would it not make sense? And sense it would make to start with certifications, contracts, you know, all kinds of papers that you need for transport and stuff like that. I don't think that blockchain is something that is like a hammer and you can, you know, push all the nails down. But the thing is, we should start with those kinds of examples in certain industries, and that's also one of the Marcus has said before. You know, in the car industry, it's very beneficial and useful.
It helps. Yeah, that's what the idea is. So I wish you good luck. Are there any further questions? Okay, great. So thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Hi, my question is, how do you really make sure that the facility managers really perform the 100% of their tasks? Because it's just the same, you can submit, okay, I did it, but how you make sure that they really do it?
Yeah,
It's a very sportive event.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a good question. Actually, thank you very much for that. Of course, if you just let him do that confirmation based on trust, on common trust, then you probably would fail. But you, of course, would then ask for proof, as I showed you the photograph of the elevator, actually. Or as I said before, hey, how much salt have you been pouring on the street? So is there a measurement even, and so on. So you have to install that kind of trust measurements to actually force them even more into compliance, and not only to verbally address that or with a click. So, but there are ways to do that, and that's how it's also been done.